Have you ever stepped off a train into a life that wasn't yours, only to discover the man who promised you everything was already 6 feet underground? That's exactly what happened to one woman in 1885, and what came next would change her life forever. Before we dive into the story, click the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more shocking stories tomorrow. Also, drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and what time it is there. Now, let's continue with the story. The train lurched to a stop at Copper Ridge Station, and Clara Whitmore felt her stomach drop with it. 3 days of rattling through dusty territories had left her wedding dress the color of old parchment, and her hope just as brittle. She clutched the telegram that had brought her here, reading it for the 100th time. Howard Blackwell, merchant, seeking wife, good prospects. The words blurred as she stepped onto the platform, her worn boots hitting sun-baked wood. But something was wrong. The station was nearly empty, just a few ranch hands loading supplies, and an old woman selling dried flowers. No eager merchant, no welcoming smile, just the relentless Montana sun beating down on her shoulders. Clara's chest tightened. She'd sold everything to buy this train ticket. There was no going back to Boston, no family waiting with open arms. This was it. Then she saw him. A tall man in a dusty coat and worn leather boots, hat pulled low over his face. He walked with the kind of confidence that comes from owning things, big things. Land, cattle, power. He stopped 3 feet away, and when he lifted his head, storm-gray eyes met hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. "You here for Howard Blackwell?" His voice was rough, like gravel underfoot. "Yes," Clara managed, straightening her spine. "I'm Clara Whitmore, his bride." The cowboy's jaw tightened. "Howard's dead. Buried him 2 weeks ago. Pneumonia took him fast." The words hit like physical blows, and Clara felt the world tilt. Dead. The merchant was dead. Her future gone. She gripped her small trunk to keep from swaying, mind racing through impossible options. She had $7 to her name and nowhere to go. The cowboy studied her for a long moment, something calculating behind those gray eyes. Then he spoke words that would seal both their fates. "I'll take you home to my twins. They need a mother. I need help running the ranch. You need a roof and food. We can make this work." Clara stared at this stranger, this man offering her survival wrapped in desperation. She should have been terrified. She should have refused. But as the last train whistled in the distance, pulling away from the station and taking her final escape route with it, she heard herself say the only word that mattered. "Yes." The wagon rattled over dried creek beds as they left Copper Ridge behind. Clara sat rigid beside Jem, her trunk wedged between them like a barrier. He hadn't spoken since they'd left, just clicked his tongue at the horses and kept his eyes on the horizon. The silence pressed down harder than the afternoon heat. She studied him from the corner of her eye. Strong jaw, weathered skin, hands that gripped the reins with quiet authority. He looked like a man who'd built something worth protecting, but there was something else in those gray eyes, something heavy. "How far?" she finally asked. 2 hours, he said. "Ranch is north, near the foothills. Good grazing land. 4,000 acres, give or take." 4,000 acres. Clara tried to imagine it, and couldn't. Her whole life had been Boston tenements and crowded streets. She'd never seen land that stretched further than her eyes could follow. "And your boys, Thomas and William." His jaw tightened at their names. 6 years old, twins, lost their mother 3 years back. He paused, then added, They're not easy children, Miss Whitmore. Fair warning. Not easy. The words hung between them like smoke. Clara folded her hands in her lap, feeling the calluses from years of laundry work. She'd raised her 4 younger siblings after their mother died. How different could 2 6-year-old boys be? The ranch appeared like a mirage, shimmering in the heat. The main house stood 3 stories tall, white paint peeling in long strips, shutters hanging crooked. Outbuildings scattered across the property, some in good repair, others sagging. Cattle dotted distant fields, but the fences looked patchy. It was grand and broken at the same time, like something that had given up halfway through. Jem helped her down from the wagon without meeting her eyes. Before Clara could ask about the boys, 2 small figures burst from the barn, identical faces, one covered in dirt, the other suspiciously clean. They stopped 20 feet away, staring at her with expressions that made her stomach clench. "Boys, this is Miss Clara. She'll be staying with us, helping around the house." Jem's voice was careful, neutral. "Clara, that's Thomas." He pointed to the cleaner one. "And William." Thomas watched her with dark, calculating eyes that belonged on someone much older. William picked up a rock, bouncing it in his palm. Neither spoke. "Hello?" Clara tried, forcing warmth into her voice. "I'm pleased to meet you both." William threw the rock. It struck her trunk with a sharp crack. "We don't need you. The last lady left after 3 days. You'll leave too." "William." Jem's voice dropped low, dangerous, but the boy just turned and ran back toward the barn, Thomas following without a word. Clara watched them go, her chest tight. 3 days. The last woman had lasted 3 days. "They'll warm up," Jem said, but he didn't sound convinced. "Bertie'll show you to your room. Dinner's at 6. He grabbed her trunk like it weighed nothing and started toward the house, leaving Clara standing alone in the dust, wondering what kind of hell she'd just walked into. Bertie McCallum turned out to be a woman carved from granite and spite. She led Clara upstairs without a word, just the thud of her cane on worn floorboards. The bedroom was small but clean, a narrow bed pushed against one wall, a washstand in the corner. Through the window, Clara could see William throwing rocks at a fence post while Thomas sat in the dirt, drawing something with a stick. "Supper's at 6 sharp," Bertie said. "Don't be late. Mr. Hartley don't tolerate tardiness." She left before Clara could respond. Clara unpacked her few belongings, trying to ignore the knot in her stomach. 3 days. That's all the last woman had managed. She pressed her palms against the windowsill, watching Jem work near the stables, his movements efficient and tireless. What had she gotten herself into? By the time she ventured downstairs, dusk was bleeding across the sky. The house felt different in the half-light, shadows pooling in corners. She followed the sound of clinking dishes toward what she assumed was the kitchen, but stopped dead in the hallway. A portrait hung on the wall, massive and impossible to miss. The woman in it was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Pale skin, dark hair swept up in elegant curls, eyes cold and distant as winter stars. She wore a blue silk dress that probably cost more than Clara would earn in a year. But it was her expression that made Clara's breath catch. Not sadness, not warmth, just empty, hollow disdain. "That's her," Bertie's voice came from behind, making Clara jump. "First Mrs. Hartley, Evangeline, died 3 years ago. Horse threw her during a storm." Clara couldn't look away from those painted eyes. She was very beautiful. Beautiful women ain't always good women. Bertie moved past her, then paused. "See that door there?" She pointed with her cane to a door just past the portrait, different from the others with its dark wood and brass lock. "That was her music room. Been locked since she died. Mr. Hartley won't go near it. and you'd be wise to do the same. After Bertie left, Clara stood alone in the hallway, staring at that locked door. What kind of woman had Evangeline been? What had happened in that room that Jem couldn't bear to open it? That night, after a silent dinner where the twins glared at her and Jem barely spoke, Clara lay in her narrow bed, unable to sleep. Moonlight cut across the floor. She'd almost drifted off when something caught her eye. A loose floorboard near the wardrobe, one corner lifted slightly. Clara knelt beside it, working it free with her fingers. Underneath, wrapped in oilcloth, were 3 leather journals. Her hands trembled as she opened the first one. The handwriting was elegant, precise. January 1882. I have made a terrible mistake. This ranch, this man, these children. None of it is what I thought. The twins watch me with his eyes, judging, waiting for me to fail. Clara flipped forward, her pulse quickening. The entries grew darker, more erratic. The twins know what I am. They see through every smile, every false word. Should never have come to this God-forsaken place. The final entry was dated 1 week before Evangeline's death. Clara's blood turned to ice as she read the last line. If you're reading this, know that I didn't fall from that horse. I jumped. Clara barely slept. Evangeline's words burned in her mind. I jumped. She hid the journals back under the floorboard as dawn broke, then splashed cold water on her face. Whatever darkness had consumed the first Mrs. Hartley, Clara refused to let it consume her too. Downstairs, the kitchen was empty. She found flour, lard, sugar. Her grandmother's bread recipe lived in her hands, not her head. She worked the dough hard, kneading out her fear, her uncertainty, everything that threatened to send her running back to that train station with nowhere to go. By the time Bertie shuffled in, 3 loaves sat cooling on the counter, golden and perfect. The old woman stopped, eyebrows raised. Well, maybe you'll last 4 days. The twins came in for breakfast like feral cats, wary and quick. Clara set out warm bread with butter and jam, said nothing. Didn't smile or fuss, just placed it in front of them and turned back to the stove. She felt their eyes on her back, heard the scrape of Thomas's chair as he reached for a slice. William's voice was sharp. Don't eat it. Could be poison. Then you eat it first, Thomas said quietly. A long silence. Then the sound of tearing bread. Clara kept her back turned, cracking eggs into a pan. When she finally sat down with her own plate, both boys had demolished their slices and were eyeing the second loaf. You can have more, she said simply. I made enough. Thomas took another piece. William just stared at her, suspicious, but his hand crept toward the bread. The next 3 days followed the same pattern. Clara didn't push, didn't demand affection or gratitude. She just showed up, made food, mended their torn shirts without being asked. When William tracked mud across the clean floor, she handed him a rag and said, You know how to fix that. On the 4th day, she found Thomas in the barn, struggling with his pony's saddle. The leather had twisted, and his small hands couldn't work it free. She could see the frustration building, tears threatening. May I? She asked. He nodded, stepping back. Clara examined the tangle, then showed him how to loosen it properly. See, you pull here first, then slide this through. Want to try? His hands followed hers, clumsy but determined. When the saddle finally came free, he looked up at her with something like wonder. How'd you know that? Had to learn fast with 4 younger brothers and sisters, she said. Being oldest means figuring things out. You had brothers? William's voice came from the doorway. He'd been listening. 2 brothers, 2 sisters. Raised them after our mama died. I was 14. Clara met his eyes steadily. I know what it's like when someone leaves and doesn't come back. Something shifted in William's face. Not trust, not yet, but recognition. That afternoon, when his pony spooked and threw him into the fence, scraping his knee bloody, he didn't cry. Just sat there, jaw clenched, trying not to shake. Clara walked over slowly. That was a hard fall. I'm fine. I can see that. But here's what I learned. Falling doesn't make you weak. Staying down does. She held out her hand. Want to learn how to read what she's thinking before she spooks. William stared at her hand for a long moment. Then, slowly, he took it. That night, Clara found a drawing slipped under her door. Crude pencil lines showed a woman with yellow hair standing between 2 boys. At the bottom, in careful letters, "You stayed." The storm hit 3 days later without warning. Clara woke to thunder that shook the windows and rain hammering the roof like fists. By breakfast, water poured from the sky in sheets so thick you couldn't see the barn. Jem came in drenched, shaking water from his hat. "Nobody goes outside," he said. "This'll blow for days." He was right. By afternoon, the twins were climbing walls. Thomas wanted to run. William wanted to fight. They knocked over a chair, shattered a lamp, and nearly set the curtains on fire, trying to see how close they could hold a candle to the fabric. "Enough!" Clara's voice cut through the chaos. Both boys froze. She pointed to the parlor. "In there! Now!" She made them build a fort from furniture and blankets, told them stories about her brother's pranks in Boston, made them act out different parts. When they got too wild, she invented games with rules they had to follow. Simon says, I spy. 20 questions. Jem watched from the doorway, arms crossed, something like amazement on his face. By the second day, even Clara's patience was fraying. The boys bickered over everything. Thomas accused William of cheating. William pushed Thomas into the wall. They were seconds from real violence when Clara grabbed a deck of cards. "Poker," she announced. "I'll teach you." Jem's eyebrows shot up. "That's not appropriate for children." "Neither is them killing each other." She shuffled with quick, practiced hands. "My father ran card games on riverboats. I learned before I could write. Keeps the mind sharp." She taught them the rules, how to read faces, how to bluff. The twins took to it like wolves to hunting. Even Jem pulled up a chair, and for 3 hours, the storm outside faded as they played hand after hand. Thomas was cautious, methodical. William played aggressive and wild. Clara beat them all. "How do you keep winning?" William demanded. "Because I watch your eyes, not your cards," she said, gathering up her matchstick pile. "You tell me everything before you even know what you're going to do." The third night, after the boys finally collapsed into exhausted sleep, Jem poured 2 glasses of whiskey. Clara had never tasted it before, but took the glass without comment. They sat in the kitchen, rain drumming overhead. The house finally quiet. "You're good with them," Jem said. "Better than anyone's been." "They're not bad boys, just scared." He stared into his glass. "Evangeline couldn't stand them. Said they were wild animals she never wanted." His voice went rough. "Our marriage was arranged. Her father owed gambling debts. I needed a wife. She got trapped here with 2 babies and a man she despised." Clara's chest tightened, remembering the journals. "What happened the day she died?" "She told me she wished they'd never been born. Then she rode out into a storm, worse than this one." He looked at Clara, eyes raw. "That horse didn't throw her. She aimed for the rocks. He drained his glass. I married you because I'm drowning. Those boys need someone who won't abandon them. Can you be that person, even if I can never love you the way a husband should? Clara met his gaze steadily. Outside, lightning split the sky. Inside, something fragile and true hung between them. Yes, she said, I can be that person. The riders came at dawn, 3 of them. Horses kicking up dust as they approached the house. Clara was kneading bread when she heard the hoofbeats. Through the window, she watched them dismount. The leader wore a fine coat despite the heat, silver buttons gleaming. His smile was all teeth. Jem walked out to meet them, rifle loose in his hands. Clara moved to the door, staying inside but close enough to hear. Jameson Hartley. The man's voice was smooth as oil. Been a while. Dalton Reeves. Jem's tone could have frozen water. You're not welcome here. Now that's unfriendly. I'm just collecting what's owed. Reeves pulled a paper from his coat. Your late wife had debts. $15,000. All properly documented. All legal. Clara's blood went cold. $15,000. Evangeline's dead, Jem said flatly. Her debts died with her. Not how the law sees it. Husband inherits wife's obligations. Reeves smiled wider. I'm a reasonable man. I'll take the ranch. Sign it over. We'll call it even. Get off my land. Or what? You'll shoot me? Reeves gestured to his men. That wouldn't be smart. Accidents happen to stubborn people. Cattle disappear, barns catch fire, pretty things get damaged. His eyes slid past Jem to the house, landing on Clara. Would be a shame if something happened to your new bride. Jem raised the rifle. Leave. Now. Reeves held up his hands, still smiling. 2 weeks. That's how long you have to come up with the money or sign the deed. After that, I stopped being reasonable. He mounted his horse, tipped his hat mockingly. See you soon, Hartley. They rode off, dust trailing behind them. Jem stood frozen until they disappeared, then turned back to the house. His face was pale beneath the tan. How bad is it? Clara asked when he came inside. Bad. I don't have 15,000. Maybe half that if I sold every head of cattle and most of the land. He slumped into a chair. Even then, it wouldn't be enough. Over the next week, things went wrong. 5 cattle disappeared in the night. A section of fence was cut, letting more livestock wander. Clara woke one night to the smell of smoke. The hay barn was burning, flames eating through dry wood like hunger. They saved the horses but lost the structure. The twins grew quiet, watchful. They'd seen this before, Clara realized. They'd watched their world burn once already with Evangeline. Now it was happening again. On the 8th day, Clara was hanging laundry when she noticed the music room door. Still locked. Still untouched. An idea sparked. Dangerous and desperate. That night, after everyone slept, she crept downstairs with a hairpin. Her father had taught her to pick locks on the riverboat, a skill she'd never thought she'd need. The lock clicked open after 20 minutes of careful work. Clara pushed the door, heart hammering. Moonlight spilled through dusty windows onto a grand piano, sheet music scattered across the floor, furniture draped in white cloths. And there, inside the piano's hollow body, stacks of bills bound with string. Clara's hands shook as she counted. $20,000. Hidden money. Escape money. Evangeline's final secret. Clara showed Jem the money at breakfast. He stared at the stacks like they were poisonous snakes. "That's Evangeline's," he said finally. "Blood money from whatever hell she was planning." "It's salvation," Clara countered. "It can save this ranch." "I won't touch it." His jaw was set, immovable. "We'll find another way." But there was no other way, and they both knew it. That night, Clara lay awake making calculations. 15,000 to Reeves. 5,000 left for repairs, for winter, for the boys. It was enough. It was everything. The next morning, she saddled a horse before anyone woke, left a note for Jem that said only, "Trust me." Then she rode into town with $15,000 in her saddlebag and a plan that would either save them or destroy her. The saloon smelled like whiskey and desperation. Men looked up when she walked in, a woman alone in a place women didn't go. Clara ignored them, walking straight to the table where Dalton Reeves played cards with 3 other men. "Mr. Reeves," she said clearly, "I have your money." He looked up, surprise flickering across his face before the smile returned. "Well now, the little bride shows some spine." He gestured to his companions. "Gentlemen, give us the table." They scattered. Clara set the saddlebag down, opened it enough for him to see the cash. 15,000. But you're going to sign a legal document releasing all claims against Hartley Ranch before you touch a dollar." Reeves leaned back, studying her. "You rode all the way here alone with that much money. Either you're very brave or very stupid." He shuffled his cards lazily. "But here's the thing, sweetheart. I'm a gambling man. So let's make this interesting." Clara's stomach dropped. "What do you mean?" "One hand of poker, you and me." His smile was razor sharp. "You win, I sign the papers and take the money. You lose, I keep the money and get one night with you." The saloon went dead silent. Every man in the room heard it. Clara felt their eyes on her, felt the trap closing. But she also felt the weight of those poker games with her father. Hundreds of hands played on Mississippi riverboats, where the stakes were always high and the players always dangerous. "Deal the cards," she said. Reeves's eyebrows rose. "You're serious? You want your money or not?" He laughed, but it didn't reach his eyes. "All right then. 5-card draw. One hand. Winner takes all." Clara sat down across from him, hand steady despite her racing heart. The bartender brought fresh cards. Reeves broke the seal himself, shuffled with practiced ease. Around them, men pressed closer, forming a circle. Someone whispered, "She's insane." Maybe she was, but she'd watched her father read men like books, had learned to see the tells before they knew they were showing them. And as Reeves dealt the first cards, Clara saw what she needed to see. His left eye twitched when he looked at his hand. Just once. Just enough. The game began. Clara discarded 2 cards, drew 2 more. Her face remained blank as stone, while her mind raced. Pair of queens. Not great, but workable. Across from her, Reeves drew 3 cards, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. He had something, but not enough. Not yet. "Your bet," he said. Clara pushed forward a stack of bills. Reeves matched it, then raised. She called. Back and forth, building the pot, watching his tells. The eye twitch came again when he drew his final card. Stronger now. He had improved his hand, but so had she. That last draw gave her a 3rd queen. "Call," Reeves said finally, spreading his cards. "Full house. Kings over 7s." The crowd murmured. Strong hand. Clara's heart hammered once, twice. Then she laid down her cards, one by one. 4 queens. The saloon erupted. Reeves went white, then red. his hands gripping the table edge. "You cheated. You dealt," Clara said calmly. "You shuffled. Every man here watched. Now sign the paper." For a long moment, she thought he might flip the table, might call his men to drag her outside. But too many witnesses watched, too many eyes that would talk. Slowly, jaw clenched so hard it must have hurt, Reeves pulled out a pen and signed the release document. Clara took it, folded it carefully, and walked out without looking back. Behind her, Reeves's voice was soft and deadly. "This isn't over, little bird." She rode home as fast as the horse could manage, the signed paper pressed against her chest. Jem was waiting in the yard, pacing like a caged animal. When he saw her, relief and fury warred on his face. "Are you insane? You could have been killed." Clara handed him the document. "We're free. The ranch is safe." He read it, then pulled her into a crushing hug that drove the air from her lungs. "Don't ever do that again." "I won't need to." But a week later, Clara woke to smoke. Not the clean smell of the kitchen stove. This was thick, acrid, wrong. She bolted upright, saw orange light flickering under her door. "Fire!" The hallway was filling with smoke. She ran to the twins' room, threw open the door. Both boys were coughing, disoriented. "Get up! Now!" Thomas stumbled to his feet. William was crying, choking on smoke. Clara grabbed them both, pulling them toward the stairs. But when they reached the landing, flames were climbing the walls below. The stairs were collapsing, wood cracking and giving way. "We're trapped," Thomas whispered. Through the smoke, Clara heard Jem's voice shouting their names. She ran to the window, smashed it with a chair. Cool air rushed in. Below, Jem stood in the yard, face wild with terror. "I can't reach you," he shouted. Clara's mind raced. The bed sheets. She ran back, ripping them from beds, knotting them together with shaking hands. The smoke was getting thicker. William was barely conscious. She tied one end to the bed frame, threw the other out the window. Thomas first. She lowered him down, his small hands gripping tight. Jem caught him. William next. The boy was limp. Too much smoke. Clara looped the sheet under his arms, lowered him as fast as she dared. The roof groaned above them, then cracked. "Jump!" Jem screamed. Clara jumped as the ceiling exploded into flames behind her. Jem caught her. They hit the ground hard, rolling in the dirt as the house exploded behind them in a shower of sparks and flames. For a moment, they just lay there, gasping, covered in ash. Then, Jem was checking her over, hands frantic. "Are you hurt? Clara, talk to me." "I'm fine." She pushed herself up, looked at the twins. Thomas was coughing but alert. William's eyes were open, breathing ragged, but steady. They're alive. That's what matters. They watched the house burn until dawn, 4 silhouettes against the inferno. The ranch hands brought water, but it was too late. By morning, only the stone chimney remained standing, surrounded by smoking rubble. The sheriff arrived by midday, found kerosene cans in the debris, found Reeves's silver cigarette case near the barn. 2 deputies rode out and arrested him before sunset. Clara felt nothing watching him go. No satisfaction, no relief, just exhaustion. They moved into the bunkhouse. 1 room, 6 narrow beds, a pot-bellied stove. The ranch hands bunked in the barn to give them space. It was cramped and chaotic, but something about it felt right. No locked doors, no portraits watching from walls, no ghosts. The twins slept in bunks near the window. Jem took the floor, distraught by Clara's protests. She got the bed closest to the stove. That first night, Thomas had nightmares. Clara woke to his whimpering, crossed the small space, sat on the edge of his bunk. She didn't say anything, just smoothed his hair back until he settled. "You stayed," he whispered, "even through the fire." "I'm not going anywhere," she promised. This became days, routine. The boys hauled wood for the new house foundation. Clara cooked over an open fire, washing clothes in a barrel. Jem worked from dawn until dark, but every evening he sat with them under the stars, planning the rebuild. The house would be bigger this time, stronger, with a real kitchen and rooms for the boys to grow into. "What about you?" Jem asked Clara one night after the twins slept. "What do you want in the new house?" She looked at him, at the boys, at the vast Montana sky scattered with stars. "I want this. Exactly this." "A bunkhouse?" He smiled, the first real smile she'd seen from him. "A family." She met his eyes. "I spent my whole life taking care of people who left. My mother died. My father drank himself to death. My siblings scattered the moment they could. I never had anyone who stayed." Her voice cracked. "You all stayed. Even when the house burned down, even when everything fell apart, you stayed." Jem reached over, took her hand. His palm was rough with calluses, warm and solid. "You gave us a reason to stay." He lifted her hand to his lips, kissed it gently. "I married you out of desperation, but I'm keeping you out of choice. You're ours now, Clara, if you'll have us." She thought of Boston, of the train platform, of Howard Blackwell's grave, all the doors that had closed to bring her here. "Yes," she whispered. "I'll have you." Above them, stars wheeled across the endless sky. In the bunkhouse, the twins slept peacefully. For the first time since that train pulled into Copper Ridge Station, Clara felt something she'd forgotten existed. She felt home. Spring came like a promise kept. Wild flowers carpeted the valley in waves of purple and gold, and the new house rose from the ashes of the old. Bigger, stronger, built by hands that refused to quit. The twins helped, carrying nails and boards, their skinny arms growing stronger with each day. Clara worked alongside them, and sometimes she'd catch Jem watching her with an expression that made her heart skip. The house was finished by May. Real windows, solid floors, a kitchen big enough for the family they were becoming. But it was Jem's suggestion that surprised her most. "Marry me again," he said one evening on the new porch. "Properly this time." Clara looked at him, confused. "We're already married." That was survival. Two desperate people making a bargain. He took both her hands. "This time, I want it to be choice. I want to stand in front of God and everyone and choose you. Not because I need help with the ranch or someone to raise my boys, because you're the strongest, bravest person I've ever known, and I love you." The ceremony happened on a Sunday morning with wildflowers blooming everywhere. Just them, the twins, Birdie, and the ranch hands. No fancy church, no elaborate dress. Clara wore a simple blue cotton that matched the sky, and Jem wore his best shirt with the collar freshly pressed. When it came time for vows, Jem's voice cracked with emotion. "Didn't believe in second chances until you stepped off that train. You saved us, Clara. Not just me, but my boys. This ranch. Everything worth saving. You could have run a dozen times. You stayed instead. You fought for us when we couldn't fight for ourselves." Clara's throat tightened. "You didn't need saving, Jem. You needed a partner. Someone who wouldn't break when things got hard." She looked at Thomas and William, standing beside them in their best clothes, grinning wildly. And I needed a home, not a place, but people. You gave me that. All three of you gave me exactly what I was missing. The ranch hand playing fiddle struck up a tune. Bertie dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief. Thomas handed Clara a bouquet of prairie roses he'd picked himself. Then William, never one to be quiet, announced loudly, "Does this mean we can call you Ma now?" Clara laughed through tears, pulled both boys into a hug. "I'd like that very much." As the sun set over Hartley Ranch, painting the sky in shades of fire and gold, four people stood together on the porch of their new house. A cowboy who'd learned to love again. Twin boys who'd learned to trust. A woman who'd stepped off a train into nothing and built everything. They were no longer broken, no longer alone. They were finally, completely home. If this story touched your heart, click that like button and subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another incredible tale of love, courage, and second chances that you won't want to miss. Trust me, you'll want to be here for it.